It's been 2 years since our last video blog, so we thought we would just dive straight in, and we're going to cover low alcohol and non-alcohol beer. We're going to be using a process called cold extraction. We have not done this before. We don't know what the results are going to be. We're basing this on an article that we read from Breeze from a number of years ago, and we're going to share the method, the steps, results, and our thoughts about the process. The malt we're using today is Eckert base malt number 3, and a crystal variety that is available commercially, but not to the homebrew market. But we're going to go ahead and use it today. The malt is milled, and we're going to mash in. The pump is on, the heat is off, the temperature is higher than we wanted it to be. You may have noticed that this configuration of my grandfather isn't set up for the half batch that we're currently doing. The water is being diffused way above the grain bill. There is the standard overflow tube in this grandfather. This is an older model that still has those. I left the lid off so we can monitor the process. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this today. I'm really interested in how well that grain is going to absorb the water. If you go through our blogs, you'll come across a really old one. I forget the exact wording of it, but it's something to the effect of water absorption assessment of various gluten-free malts, something or another. We had it completed by our local university in their lab, and it assessed the water absorption of the different gluten-free malts, including rice, millet, etc., which do all have different water absorption rates. As I stated, this is just an experiment, and it's the first time that I've done this, and I don't know that I'll do it again, but I very may likely do it again. I tend not to be too thorough on the first one. I just kind of wing it and see what works and didn't work. If I get the information I want out of it, that's great. If I don't, I'll go back through and do it all over again. That second time, I'll be more methodical about it, put more thought into it, but not knowing really what to expect, not knowing what things I'm going to run into, I kind of just tend to wing things the first time. That might really irritate some people. Again, I'm not a scientist, so I don't have that precision in my thinking. I am going to measure things and take samples and share all that information. I'm also probably going to ramp this thing up to about 175 before we conclude the mash and see what effect, if any, that has on the process. This has been recirculating for about 10-15 minutes, and you can already see some color coming through on the little sample we have on our spoon. It's been about half an hour, and that's looking pretty good. As we expected or suspected, we're not getting any fermentable sugars out of this, but we have gotten some really nice color and some really nice aroma. This is the sample we just pulled off and measured. Smells malty. I think it has some potential. It's been an hour, and we're collecting our next sample. And that looks even better than the last one. Just as before, we're not getting any sugars extracted out of there. And I'm going to begin rising this up to 175. My logic for that is A, I want to see what happens, and B, it helps me get closer to my boil so I can start my brew. I'm going to turn the heat on, and since we're not following any particular program, I just have it set to 175, and we'll let it rise. And this is the sample we just pulled. And give that a taste. Yeah, definitely has more robust flavor than it did at our last sample. Here's the final gravity reading after ramping it up to 175. There doesn't appear to be any benefit as far as the gravity. However, I felt that the aroma and the color extraction seemed to improve. So I'm done with the mash session for today. I'm going to get to the actual brewing on another day. I have some other obligations that I need to attend to first. Wrapping up today, I think that I have more questions than I have answers. and not questions about what I did today, but questions about what did I really want to get out of it? Because now that I've gone through this mash process, I realize, and going back to my previous comment about kind of winging these things the first time I attempt them, is maybe I don't have a complete grasp of what people are asking for. What are their questions? What are their experiences? What do I need to do on my end to figure out what my customers and this community really wants? If we think back to when we first started brewing gluten-free beer and we didn't have the exogenous enzymes we have now, we really had low gravity beer and sometimes even, pretty close to non-alcohol beer. So are some of the questions we want to use less malt so that's more cost effective, which is always a goal? Is it that we're having difficulties with some of the characteristics of the beers that we are brewing that are low alcohol or non-alcohol, in that they don't have like the same mouthfeel or foam and head retention and lacing and things like that? So I guess I need to ask you and ask the people that get my newsletter and just customers and people in the gluten-free brewing community in general, before I and others keep going down this rabbit hole, what are the questions that we need to answer? So I'm going to pose that to you. I'm going to follow up with the actual brew session in another blog. And I'm thinking this is going to be a longer project in that I'm going to have to do another mash session and have those questions in mind. But I hope you found some benefit to watching me go through this process with you today.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it.